Hi, everybody. This is Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime streaming show where we watch old 16mm films. I'm not live. I'm wearing the same shirt that I wore yesterday. I'm basically pre-recording this show as I'm going to be traveling on the road when this show airs. So we've got some films lined up. So let's go ahead and start off with a film that is... ironically, it's about water and it has water damage. It is Man's Problem, Part 2. I don't think you need to see Part 1 to see how this exciting sequel ends. But it starts off with, you'll see there's a lot of, like, and you'll hear this sound. And that's basically water got on the emulsion and it made it all smeary and gross, and it did it with soundtrack. But eventually it clears up. So here's Man's Problem. Enjoy.
Amount of water. Yes, man needs water, even for the making. But water created a natural system was not devised for, and nature does not always deliver the water and the place where he most needs. Could be told something about the importance by the people who live in the country. It took 5,000 pounds of water and alfalfa that went into, and they could be told 5,000 pounds of water to of bread. And we shall see some of the problems of this water and what steps man may. For example, the city of Los Angeles, with water from the Los Angeles River, the community's needs. And each new house and factory added share of the dwindling supply. Water flow goes into the pipes of the city's water. This dry channel, all that is left. But there is another water flowing through the soil. This water is a great underground river, moving from the water hills back again to the ocean. And thousands of wells were dug to water. And for many years, they were able to the growing demand until their increasing numbers, more water than the earth could supply. The water in the ground began to fall below the surface. Some shallow wells went dry, and some landowners began to drill their wells deep to reach the sinking water. But each man who did threw off water from under the land of his neighbor. Now the neighbor must, in turn, go deeper until at last the cost of reaching water became more than it could bear. This farm is bankrupt simply because other farms around it have drawn off more water than the land supply. As the water level continued to drop, the farms and factories and homes that had depended on it find new sources of supply. And so the city spent many $1 million building an aqueduct into the mountains to draw water from the distant Owens River. And still the demand grew. But beyond the mountains lay the Mojave Desert, with no water at all. And now the nearest new source was the Colorado River, more than 200 miles away. In the summer, this river's flow may be more than 600,000 gallons of water each second, enough to supply the entire daily needs of the city of Los Angeles in 10 minutes. In the winter, when the snows are frozen, the flow may drop to 1/20th of that amount, and the river's value is thus reduced to its smallest dependable flow. But the cities and towns depend on the river the whole year round. Therefore, to give this water its true value, it had to be stored in huge reservoirs that could hold the surplus flow till it was needed. But this water was owned by all the 7 states that border on the river, and together their claims totaled more than the entire yearly flow of the river. No dam could be built to supply California until the states on the river above would agree to let enough water flow down to fill the reservoir. At last an agreement was reached among the states, reducing their claims to allow a share for all. And so the Hoover Dam was built, the first in a system to be built for control of the water, along with an aqueduct that could carry 1 billion gallons every day across the desert into California. In this way, the engineers were able to multiply the value of the river, storing its water and carrying it where it can be useful as needed. And so the water came to Los Angeles, and the building of a dam helped the city to grow and prosper. But the building of a dam sometimes creates problems. This is a fish ladder built to carry fish over the Bonneville Dam. The salmon can swim up its steps with little trouble to lay their spawn in the streams above. But when the young salmon journey back to the sea, many of them are killed by their passage through the turbines. It is estimated that the dam kills nearly 1/7 of all the young salmon that go through it. When many other dams are built on the Columbia River, this may wipe out the $17 million salmon industry and the hundreds of jobs that it provides. Here is the beginning of the Hungry Horse Dam. When it is finished, the reservoir behind it will cover 20,000 acres of this cleared land that was once covered by a rich forest. The watershed above it bears millions of acres of forest, which can be reached by a level road along the river. This road will soon be covered by the reservoir. Then these forests can be reached only by long and difficult roads through the mountains. This will raise the cost of bringing out the timber for all the years to come. Yes, dams present many problems. Here is the Coolidge Dam in Arizona, built to store the huge San Carlos Reservoir. Today, it stands nearly empty. It was built without sufficient study, only to find later that there was not enough water to keep it filled. But farms and cities in the desert depend on these dams for their life. When the water fails, they must go back to the desert, like this abandoned farm. So we see that the building of a dam entails grave responsibility, for the reservoir may hold the power of life and death over vast areas of land that become dependent on it. And the life of the reservoir, in its turn, depends upon the health of the land that supplies its water. A river can tell us many things about the land it comes from. This muddy water tells us that it is filled with the good soil which was once nature's reservoir in the earth. This boiling flood tells us that nature's reservoir has been damaged and lost its power to store the water. Let us go back into the hills where this water started and look for the causes of the flood. One of the most important causes lies in too heavy grazing by sheep and cattle. For when the animals eat off too much grass, leaving the surface bare and exposed like this, the soil loses its protection against the hammering raindrops. When the heavy-footed animals compress nature's sponge like this, the soil loses its power to absorb the rain. Now the water runs off, tearing great wounds in the earth that show us where the water was once stored. But the greatest danger to the watersheds lies in forest fires that destroy the forests and the smaller plants, leaving the ground exposed and vulnerable. The rain, which once helped to fill the soil, now tears it away. Nature's reservoir has been entirely destroyed. On this bare rock, there is nothing left to hold the moisture. As this snow melts, its water should be stored in the soil. But now its reservoir is gone. The water runs off, leaving no provision for the future. And the process of destruction may be repeated on the farmlands. For when a plow, improperly and thoughtlessly used, breaks the porous sod, this land, too, loses its power to absorb the rain in the dry areas. The runoff from the fields joins the water from the hills. Each new addition gives it greater power to destroy. Destroying crops, flooding highways, destroying homes and farms, carrying away the soil that should have stored the water, dropping the soil to destroy the reservoirs built by man. This was once a reservoir filled with water. The red earth that fills it now was once a part of nature's reservoir on the hills above, carried down by flowing water to bury two reservoirs in a single grave. But these dead reservoirs are merely symptoms of the real disease. Here is where that red soil came from. This sick land was once covered by a protecting forest, but the forest was destroyed by man. The dying earth has lost its power to absorb the water. So the river tells us the story of the land it comes from, first with floods and then with drought. The land is losing its power to support life. This damage could have been prevented, and much can still be repaired by wise management that will protect the soil and restore its power to absorb water. This wise farmer is harrowing the stubble from his wheat crop back into the surface. This will anchor the soil in place and make the surface porous to absorb the rain. The good farmer draws his furrows along the level contours of the slopes, so creating 1,000 new reservoirs to replace the old ones broken by the plow. No runoff here. Even on the mountains, man may sometimes repair the damaged earth. This land was once destroyed by grazing sheep, but at last the animals were removed, and engineers covered the slopes with level trenches that act like miniature reservoirs to hold the water. In this way, at tremendous cost, the farms and towns below are protected from floods until nature can rebuild the natural cover on the slopes. And in the valley below the slopes that have been ruined by fire or grazing, walls may be built like these to check the flow of the flood water and let it sink into its proper place in the soil. And so it lies within man's power to preserve the natural reservoirs from destruction even while he uses the earth. But another danger to the water supply lies in the destruction of water itself. For a river's true value lies not in the number of gallons it carries, but in the number of times it can be used. Here is a great city, and beside it run two rivers. But for the needs of this city, the rivers are not water, they are poison. The water's usefulness has been destroyed by the acts of other cities on the watersheds above. Along the river's banks are many cities, each discharging into the water its share of sewage and of poisons from the mills. Nature can partly remedy this pollution, diluting the poisoned water and letting the filth settle to the bottom. Bacteria in the water helps to destroy the sewage, using great quantities of oxygen for fertilizer and add fresh oxygen for the bacteria to use. Fish and other animals eat the plants and sewage. But when the pollution becomes too deadly, killing bacteria, the fish, and the plants, the water loses the power to clean itself. Now man must clean it for his own preservation. For this foul water must be used for drinking by the cities farther down the stream. This is the water in a typical Midwestern river. It is fed by the discharges from city sewers like this. In the winter, when the flow of the river is low and there is little oxygen under the ice, this flow may be as much as 1/2 straight sewage. Here, the foul water of that river is entering the water system of a city to be cleaned and used for drinking. At first, chemicals are added to it, which cause the dirt to settle. Then chlorine gas is pumped into it through this glass gauge to kill the bacteria. Now it is filtered through charcoal, and at last, with the sewage removed, it comes out looking and tasting like the pure drinking water we know. Now it will be used in the homes and canneries and factories, and then returned again to the sewers and back into the river to be cleaned and used again by the next city downstream. Such rivers are a disgrace to the cities and factories that pollute them, and a menace to the others which must now use the dirty water. It must be the responsibility of every user of the river to return its water clean and fit for further use. Yes, there is a water problem, but it is man's problem. And if you and your neighbors and your fellow citizens refuse to face it, all the dams built at tremendous cost to you and your government will be of little use someday in the future if the watersheds are neglected and destroyed. By thinking ahead, by planning, by preserving nature's resources, by combining scientific techniques with common sense, by working together with engineers and conservationists and ordinary citizens, by taking care of the forests and land and rivers that make up these watersheds, man can assure himself that he will have water where he wants it, when he wants it, for himself and the generations of Americans yet to come. The water problem can be solved with nature's help. But only
I talked about earlier the irony. So at the beginning of the film, there was you saw the noise, and so it's periodic. And so the reason why is because when it's on a reel, the reel was exposed to water. Chances are it was stored vertically, and so as the water, whatever environment, and this could have been in the previous basement that I had, where there was flooding during one of the hurricanes, and the water kind of rises and then starts seeping into the can, and it starts making its way inside the can and touching the film, and so because the film is wrapped around a reel, it's only getting periodic, and so as the film goes, then that damage gets happens more frequently, but becomes less as the water kind of makes its way up. So it's beautiful and it's sad, and in this case, incredibly ironic that we talked about man's problem with water early on. This is I don't have a date on it because obviously the title has been destroyed, but this looks like it's the early 50s, maybe. Maybe somebody can look it up and mention it in the comments. All right. So we talked about problems back in the 50s or early 60s about water. Let's go to the 80s and let's talk about the problem of drugs and teenagers. Enjoy.
Make it there, boy? Hey, man, Jimmy can do it. Jimbo can do anything, man. He's gonna barf in the car? Hey, man, if he throws up in this car, he is toast, man. He is toast, man. No barfing allowed. That's uncool, man. Hey, and speaking of cool, you gonna bring some weed tomorrow? Oh, come on, Tommy. You are bringing it, aren't you? No. Remember, kid, no one rides for free.
Is that you, Jimmy?
Yeah, Mom.
Where were you?
We went to, the library.
Oh,
Yeah, we were at the library. We were studying for midterms.
seems like you've been out studying a lot lately.
Yeah, I guess so.
You better get to bed.
Mom?
Yes?
Good night, Mom.
Good night, Jimmy. Sleep well.
This is not good. Wake up.
How are you?
Your conscience. And it's time we talked.
What?
Your conscience, you know, little voice from inside that tells you right from wrong.
Who are you? Did Tommy send you?
No what?
You can't be my
Your conscience? Why not?
This is just a bad joke, right?
No. No, it's not. Now tell me why can't I be your conscience?
Because a conscience isn't something you can see. It's that, the words and ideas and stuff. It's, that thing that's always in your head.
Go on.
Yeah, and besides, I mean, if you were my conscience, you wouldn't look like you. Yuck.
You're telling me. All right, but you know me, don't you? It's the voice, isn't it? Jimmy, don't drink. It's not good for you. Jimmy, you should be studying. Jimmy, be honest with yourself. Jimmy, don't lie. Familiar?
Well, yeah, but you see, you're a woman, right? And it doesn't make any
Oh,
sense.
then what should a conscience look like?
I don't know.
It looks like the choices that you make. I look like you feel inside, up here and in here. Okay? So when you make bad choices, I look bad. When you feel bad, I look bad.
Yeah,
It's
bad.
simple.
I'll tell you what's bad is this dream. I'm having a bad dream, and...
Oh no, this is real. And if you keep lying and hanging out with your friends and drinking, I'm gonna look like Godzilla.
No, you're nuts. That's what you are. You're nuts, and I'm gonna get out of here. That's what I'm gonna do.
Jimmy, we've got to talk. Look, I want things to be good between us. I do. But you're always high, you're hanging out with your friends, and you don't listen to your conscience anymore. You can't get rid of me, so let's make some changes.
Enough of the wee stuff, and will you do me a favor?
What?
Go away.
Your pal Tommy says the rules and stuff like that are for wimps and old ladies. Real guys do what they want, or life's boring, let's party. Or a guy's gotta do what a guy's gotta do. Stuff like that makes me crazy and ugly. Jimmy, I'm gonna look like Godzilla. Are you listening?
What are you?
So how you feeling?
Awful.
Why?
Because, right? Just because.
Because you're in trouble? Because you're hungover and maybe you don't know what to do, a little bit afraid of what might happen?
Hey, I'm handling things.
Right. Always sleep in your clothes?
Big deal.
How you getting along with your mom?
All right, hey, you leave her out of this, all right?
We were at the library, Mom, studying for midterms.
She understands.
She understands that all your money's going for drugs. She understands that all your time is being spent with Tommy, meeting friends.
Hey, they're my friends.
Jimmy,
Did
you say something?
No, Mother. Hello, Mom. What's up?
Well, I'm leaving. You better hurry up so you won't be late for school.
All right, almost ready. See you tonight.
Cute.
Thank you.
No shower?
No time.
Right, we look bad. Might as well smell bad, too. Look, I know it's hard to look at me and see yourself, but we can change. The way you feel and the way I look, please. Look, it's all a matter of time. It's all up to you.
I'm losing my mind.
No, you're not. You're beginning to use it. You're beginning to see that bad things can happen. That bad things are happening.
Like what?
Like, hangovers, bad grades, lost friends, lies. The ones you tell your mom and the ones you tell yourself. Jimmy, it doesn't take a genius to know you're not happy.
I'm doing...
We could be great. You can look good and feel good. Just listen to me, Jimmy.
Listen, I'm not buying into this conscience stuff anymore, so will you just leave me alone?
What are you doing?
I'm cooling out. You're making me crazy.
I'm making you crazy.
Let me roll that for you, Jimmy. You know, you should have let me help you sooner. But it's never too late. Don't let her bother you, Jimbo. Consciences can be a real pain. We have got what we need to get rid of her right here.
Oh, this is great. Another one. And who are you this time?
Oh, you don't know who this is? Well, hey, let me introduce you. This is the guy that you're spending all your money on. This is the guy you lie for. This is the guy that's turning you inside out.
She does go on, doesn't she?
This is drugs, Mr. Good Times.
Boredom alert, boredom alert. Smoke this, Jimmy, and then we'll decide how we want to spend the rest of the day. The boy belongs to me. Be cool, James.
Jimmy, go to school. I'll take care of him.
Think of your friends. You don't want to feel left out, Jimbo. Everybody's happy when I'm around. What are they going to say when I'm not with you?
Jimmy!
It's my kind of kid.
Look, you don't have to do this. Think to me, what can happen if you don't carry that stuff around? What's the worst thing that can happen if you don't have it? How bad is that compared to getting caught? Why? You couldn't see me.
No?
No.
Oh, of course not.
Now look, what are you going to tell them when they find it? It's just oregano, right? Now, you just have to accept that I'm real and that I'm a part of you.
Hey, things that are real don't pop in and out of my
That was
bathroom.
just a ploy on my part to appeal to your good nature. I'm trying to be a good person, and everybody's got one. You just have to accept it, but you won't.
You're
You're
doing
stubborn.
something pretty
You
good.
got a hard head,
You do.
nobody listens.
That conscience, ooh. Is she ugly or what? The way I look at it, Jimbo, if you only go around once, you should at least feel good, you know? Party,
Yes,
have a
yes,
good time.
yes, that's what I say, exactly.
That's it. Stick with me, kid. I'll take care of you.
Hey, Jimmy. How's it going?
Jimbo,
Hey, Jimmy. Big time last night, my man.
old Fred got sick again. Good thing it wasn't in Tommy's car this time.
Hey, did you bring the stuff?
Earth to Jim. He's talking to you. Earth to Jim. He's talking to you.
Hey, we were kind of counting on you, man. Did you bring the stuff or not?
Listen, I gotta go, all right?
What's with him?
All right, class, let me have your attention. I'm going to give you a few minutes to prepare for today's exam. You may speak amongst yourselves, quietly, but in exactly 10 minutes, it's test time. So use your time wisely, huh?
I'm gonna float the test. What's a quark anyway?
A duck with a speech impediment.
Jim. Tommy told me to ask you if you got the stuff.
Hey, please, I'm trying to study, okay?
Hey, come on, this is the meatster you're talking to. Did you get it or not? All right. I knew you wouldn't let us down.
I knew you wouldn't let us down. Such a big man. Why don't you do something for yourself and get rid of that junk?
Please, I'm trying to study.
Who are you kidding? I can't believe you're actually going to do this. You're actually going to carry that stuff around.
I made a commitment.
To who? To Tommy? To be stupid?
If you don't leave me alone, I'm gonna flunk this test, all right?
Oh, you're probably going to flunk it, right? But it's not going to be because I'm bothering
I'll
you.
get by.
Get by. Get by. We could be great, and he wants to get by.
That's it. That's it. I've had enough, all right? Will you shut up? Shut up, all right?
Hey, Jimmy can do it. Hey, Jimmy? He's either cool or he's out.
So what should a conscience look like?
No breaks, pal.
When I look bad, you look bad.
Hey, Jimbo, let me roll that for you. My kind of...
Bad things can happen, Jimmy.
Did you bring the stuff?
The boy belongs. Boy belongs. Boy belongs. Jimmy! We can't be losing this valuable merchandise now, can we? I'll tell you, Jimmy, what we're going to do. I'm going to hold on to this for you, okay?
No, that's it. I'm gone. I quit. I'm out.
Yeah, right. You'll be back sooner or later. See, I know you're kind. You go with the flow. It's so much easier. Just a matter of time, Jimmy.
Feeling good?
Oh, man, you look so different. You look good.
We look good. The way I look is up to you. Do I really look better?
Yeah, you do. You really do.
Great. So remember how good you feel. Remember how good it feels to make the right decision. Because there's going to be a lot more decisions you'll have to make.
Oh, like today? I missed that test. I don't know what I'm gonna say to Mr. Hartzell.
Tell him the truth.
Yeah, I guess so.
How about when I go like this? You think I look good? Put your arm down.
Oh, hey guys. What's up?
Hey, you all right? You kind of freaked out in there.
Yeah, all right.
We flunked tests before.
Yeah, well, I flunked another one.
Hey, don't worry about it. Mr. Hartzell came back. Fred told him you had a psychotic episode because of grief.
Grief?
Yeah, I told him your dog had a heart attack.
Did you buy it?
Of course not, but he's gonna give you a makeup test tomorrow anyway.
Thanks, Fred.
Hey, don't worry about it. What are friends for? After all, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be partying tonight.
Yeah, well, that reminds me. I really don't think I can come to the party tonight. I should go see Mr. Hartzell. You know, I gotta go start studying.
You're kidding, right?
No, I don't have the grass.
You what?
Listen to me, I threw it away. I'm not into that stuff anymore, all right?
Look, Tommy ain't gonna like this. I don't like this. What are we supposed to do now? Let's go, Fred. This place stinks. Let's go, Fred.
Go ahead, I'll catch you later.
It's your choice. It's always up to you and your conscience, right?
What are you doing? I have decided to forgive you. We scored, man.
Yeah,
Heavy.
baby, let's
And
go.
You are going to a party.
Oh, yeah?
Come on.
You're in.
Where's Fred?
Oh, he's getting crazier than you. He says he's got something better to do.
Hey, what does it matter, man? It's always been the three of us anyway.
That's right, man.
Hey, listen, I hear Maureen and Debbie will come to this party, man.
Maureen.
And everyone knows you're nuts about Maureen.
Everyone
man.
knows you're
Come
nuts,
on.
period.
Yeah, come
man.
on.
Let's
What do you
do
say,
it.
man? Hey, what do you say, Jimmy? Come on, man.
No.
No.
No, I'm not into that stuff anymore.
Just like that?
Yeah. Just like that. See you guys around?
Not likely.
Oh yeah, that was definitely late 80s, man. Holy cow. And I love it's a film about peer pressure. Specifically the peer pressure of the conscience. They all the vices and the conscience all appear as teenagers So it's like this battle of which teenagers should I listen to. It's pretty great. It's not one of the drug scare films. It's more of a one that tries to reason. So I don't know where this falls. So 1989, I don't know where that falls with Dare, that whole program, which I would say didn't really do a good job in scaring kids off drugs. Anyways, one last film. We might run a little late, but this is a former viewer that used to watch her said that his sister was in this film, and then I found it on eBay and I purchased it. So this is Arrow of Prophecy. I believe it's the Seventh-day Adventists. And I think there's a surprise cameo in this. I believe that's right. So enjoy.
The second was Meet of Persia. That was. What is the real one about? I think that.
God saw his children down here on earth. God sent an angel to tell of Christ's birth. He spoke through his prophets of things to come. Redemption for all who believed on his Son. And he told how the nations would come and go, and how all the people would run to and fro. Through dreams and through symbols he spoke to man, an arrow of prophecy pointing to him.
Prophecy has always captivated the imagination. From the beginning of time, men have tried to extract the future from something in the present or the past. You will find people today consulting mediums, Ouija boards, rings dangling over a glass of water, cards. The Polynesians have studied the flight of birds for some clue to the future. The Chinese look to the turn of two pieces of wood to tell them whether the future holds happiness or evil. Gypsies will read the palm of your hand or predict the future in the positioning of tea leaves. The Aborigines of Australia find a key to tomorrow in the patterns left in the sands. During World War II, even statesmen of highly civilized lands paid clandestine visits to spirit mediums in an effort to know the outcome of the war and how they might best guide their nation. History has demonstrated that such sources of information cannot be trusted. There is one source that history supports. That source has opened windows to tomorrow down through the centuries. One example of its reliability may be found in the history of the Jews. Their future and the future of those who conquered them were foretold by prophets as long as 1,500 years before. The words are still recorded in the Bible for all the world to read. Discovering the future was of great concern to the ancient Middle East rulers. When a king dreamed or some unusual portent occurred, hurried conferences of the court wise men were called to determine the meaning. Centuries before Christ, the ruler of Babylon saw the future in a dream of a great image made of varied metals. A captive Jew, Daniel, told him the meaning of his dream. The image, he said, represented a succession of nations. History has confirmed his interpretation. The Babylonian Empire, depicted by the head of gold, was overthrown by the Persians some 60 years after the dream, in 538 BC. The era of the breast and arms of silver had begun. Then in 331 BC, Alexander the Great conquered Persia, fulfilling the third part of the prophecy and introducing the Greek era, represented by the image's thighs of brass. Around 200 BC, Rome, the great Iron Empire, became the dominant power of the world. For nearly 500 years, Rome ruled until through her own corruption, she fell apart under the attacks of the barbarian hordes. From that day to this, no single king, no one emperor, no one nation has so dominated human history. And this is just what this ancient prophecy declared. These feet of clay and iron, which do not mix, indicated separate nations which would never combine into one peaceful nation. The arrow of prophecy zeroed in on future targets with fantastic accuracy. Daniel's explanation did not stop at the feet of the image. In the king's dream, a great stone crashed against the feet, destroying the image. Daniel explained it.
In the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed.
According to prophecy handed down through the ages, we are approaching the day of the stone. Around the middle of the 19th century, in many lands, Bible students focused on the great time prophecies. Manuel Lacunza, a Roman Catholic priest in Latin America, interpreted them as indicating the second coming of Christ was at hand. In Germany, Johann Petri, a Reformed church minister, broadcast his feelings that the scriptures pointed to the second coming of Christ in 1843-44. Joseph Wolfe of England traveled extensively giving the message of a soon coming Christ. In Germany, Holland, Switzerland, India, Africa, and other lands, men of many faiths, Roman Catholic, Presbyterian, Episcopalian, Baptist, Methodist, felt an awareness of some impending event foretold in prophecy. In the United States, a New York farmer left his plow, convinced, after months of close study of Bible prophecy, that the scriptures pointed to the end of the world, the second coming of Christ. William Miller took his message of warning to the pulpits and lecture halls throughout the eastern United States. More than 100,000 men and women from all churches accepted his belief that the world would end in 1844. But there was nothing. A few turned again to their Bibles. There they discovered parallels between the ancient sanctuary service of the Jews and the ministry of Christ in heaven. Instead of marking the return of Christ to earth, 1844, they saw, marked the beginning of a special judgment period in heaven. They understood that through his death on the cross, Christ had paid the redemption price for all who in faith would place their lives in his hands. For such, he was now interceding before God the Father, asking for them forgiveness of sins and the gift of eternal life. Many of these Bible students were young, in their late teens and early 20s. Perhaps the youngest of all was Ellen Harmon, who with her parents had come out of the Methodist Church in Portland, Maine, in response to Miller's teaching. Ellen Harmon, shortly to become Mrs. James White, was a woman of unusual perceptivity and an earnest Christian. Though by nature timid and retiring, she was to be used of God to give guidance to a developing new movement, a church called into existence to point as an arrow to the words of Scripture and their prophetic application to this age. Some have called Ellen Harmon White a prophet. She called herself the messenger of the Lord and urged constantly the study of the Bible as the only guidebook to heaven and the basic source of spiritual direction. When, through Bible study, the significance of the fourth commandment became plain to her, she quickly began keeping the seventh-day Sabbath and urged others to do the same.
At the creation, when the foundations of the earth were laid, the sons of God looked with admiration upon the work of the Creator, and all the heavenly hosts shouted for joy. It was then that the foundation of the Sabbath was laid. God rested on the seventh day, and blessed and hallowed it. I saw that the Sabbath never will be done away, but that the redeemed saints and all the angelic host will observe it in honor of the great Creator to all eternity.
Driven by an impelling need to share the news that had come to them, these early Adventists spared nothing to carry their message from one corner of North America to the other. It was their work to proclaim the historic Christian gospel in the setting of the Judgment Hour message. Frequently, it was James and Ellen White who bore the brunt of this endeavor, at the same time rearing a family of sons. The message spread through great personal sacrifice. The messengers often misunderstood, often living on very scanty rations, often bone-tired. A church had begun to grow, a church that had its roots in the individualists of all ages, men and women who refused to have their consciences dictated. The early Christians, the Waldensians, Seventh-day Sabbath keepers down through the ages in Scotland, Norway, Ethiopia, India, Sweden, Finland, England, France, Germany. It was a church with an urgency that would not rest. It had come into existence as God's great prophetic clock had struck the hour. It had a special commission. The first house of worship was at Washington, New Hampshire. It was here that the people who had discovered the wonder of prophecy and applied it to their day first took their stand for the seventh-day Sabbath of the Bible. They later became known as Seventh-day Adventists. From this pulpit, many of the leaders of those early days spoke courage and spiritual blessing to the small congregation. Here, too, Ellen White spoke, often beginning as a frail, timid woman. As the Spirit of the Lord came upon her, her voice would strengthen, and her sermons, rich in Bible quotations, would come through clear and to the point. At times, she would be interrupted by vision even while she spoke. Always, she would write out, in letters or articles, what God had revealed to her. Her letters to individuals contained words of comfort and encouragement. Some carried rebuke, urging the forsaking of some secret sin. For the foundling church, her counsels were the essence of the spirit of prophecy, and her guidance was sought and accepted, and always carefully checked with the Bible. In the course of 68 years, Ellen White wrote more than 100,000 pages of manuscript. One of her early visions dealt with the matter of publishing. It was at a meeting in Dorchester, Massachusetts, in 1848, that Ellen White saw the need.
You must begin to print a little paper and send it out to the people. From this small beginning, it was shown to me to be like streams of light that went clear around the world.
Today, the church operates more than 40 publishing houses, printing its message in 273 languages and reaching all types of people. To the printed page, the church has added the use of radio and television in its world outreach. Such programs as The Voice of Prophecy on radio and Faith for Today on television are pioneers in religious broadcasts, and about 5,000 other programs are aired by the church every week to compass the entire earth. Believing the words of Scripture describing the body as the temple of God, the church early concerned itself with healthful living. Many of the people of the 19th century suffered from poor health habits. It was an era when foods swam in grease or surrendered their vitamins in prolonged cooking, and people often sealed themselves away from dangerous night vapors. Women pinched their waists with breath-defying corsets and resorted to medications often more deadly than the disease. One of the first of what was to become an international chain of more than 200 hospitals and clinics was the world-famous Battle Creek Sanitarium, opened under the inspired guidance of Ellen White. Here, the quiet experimentation of Dr. John Harvey Kellogg and his brother Will ignited the spark which exploded into the breakfast food revolution. And here, too, the church began its search for a better all-around diet, for natural foods that would make possible the elimination of meat from the menu without losing the protein essential to life. Its persistence in this search has resulted in meatless protein foods produced in church-owned plants in many parts of the world, products now being studied carefully by the giants of the food industries. The church's health program has grown to embrace hospitals and clinics in all parts of the world. Sometimes healing and health are brought to remote areas and isolated peoples by floating clinics or medical launches. Behind the efforts, large or small, are the counsels of Ellen White. Counsel strange to her day, but now recognized by health authorities as fact.
As early as 1864, this remarkable woman said, "Tobacco is a slow, insidious, but most malignant poison." That was how I heard about Ellen White when I was attending a 5-day plan to stop smoking. Adventists have sponsored thousands of these stop smoking clinics for people who, like me, have wanted to quit smoking. I must admit the first few days were rugged, but boy, what a difference it made in my life to be able to smell a sweet fragrance and taste delicate flavors again. You know, the Seventh-day Adventist Church has always banned the use of tobacco or alcohol by its members. In fact, at the time of the Sloan Kettering studies on smoking and cancer, Adventists were used as a control group of people who did not smoke. The extremely low incidence of lung cancer in this group, in contrast to much higher incidence among smokers, contributed to the Surgeon General's report or warning. That report shook one of the world's largest industries, the cigarette manufacturers. Ellen White pegged the cause of cancer as a germ. Back there in 1864, no one knew anything about cancer.
People knew very little about the nutritional values in foods and the relationship of diet to health. Today, the news is full of concern about the loss of minerals and vitamins in refined cereals and flour, which are not added back in the enrichment process. As early as 1863, Mrs. White warned, fine flour white bread is lacking in nutritive elements to be found in bread made from whole wheat. Long before the term polyunsaturated fat became a household word, she wrote, "The oil as eaten in the olive is far preferable to animal oil or fat." Dentists and nutritionists bemoan the average diet's high sugar intake. Here is what she said in 1890, before people got around to thinking of such things. "The free use of sugar in any form tends to clog the system and is not infrequently a cause of disease." Medical science has come to place considerable emphasis on the electrical currents that control the body. In 1869, Ellen White wrote, "Whatever disturbs the circulation of the electrical currents in the nervous system lessens the strength of the vital powers, and the result is deadening of the sensibilities of the mind.
I know her. That is, I know what Ellen White said about today and people. You know, there's a great thing about the social gospel. All the churches are in there wanting to do good. But Mrs. White long, long ago pointed out the importance of caring for folks in need. Upon your faithfulness in this work, she said, not only the well-being of others, but your own eternal destiny depends. Pretty strong words. Since its beginning, the church has operated a program aimed at relieving need, at meeting the distresses of disaster victims. Nearly every church has its health and welfare organization. Adventist disaster aid vans will be found dispensing food, blankets, clothing, and other necessities wherever people are cold and hungry, homeless or deprived of the essentials of life, whether that need is in the ghetto in the United States, or Peru, or Australia, or Africa, or the lands of the Far East.
Archie Moore puts his religion into practice. Former light heavyweight champion Moore spends his spare time trying to get through to the kids around him with a message of clean living. The champ says Mrs. White speaks strong words. There are even stronger words which have been spoken to the church, words touching on the widespread ecumenical sweep that has become popular today in a frantic search for peace. Ellen White, at the turn of the century, predicted that Christian churches would seek to unite. She explained, they will see in this union a grand movement for the conversion of the world and the ushering in of the long-awaited millennium. The result, she said, would be the trampling on the right of conscience. The church points with deepening concern to the unfolding of Bible prophecy on the closing days of Earth's history. The trauma of the age brings not just the responsibility of explaining its significance, but also of showing men the way to Christ and preparing them for his return. For men must know how to live for God as the earth grows old and time runs out. Bible prophecies concerning the days just before the second coming of Christ read like the headlines in today's newspapers.
This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come.
For men shall be lovers of their own selves,
covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers,
disobedient to parents,
unthankful, unholy, without natural affection,
truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent,
fierce, despisers of those that are good,
traitors, heady, high-minded,
lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God,
having a form of godliness but denying the power thereof.
Hold it. Just a stick up. Get your hands up. Get your hands up and you won't get hurt. Let me have your billfold. You too, ladies.
Lovers of their own selves, covetous, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unholy without natural affection, unthankful, proud, boasters, truce breakers, incontinent, despisers of those that are good, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that thou shouldst give reward unto thy servants, and shouldst destroy them which destroy the earth. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come.
Christ spoke these words long ago in the hills of old Judea. As he looked down on the scenes he loved, he looked beyond them to our time. He traced for his disciples and for us the flight of the arrow of prophecy piercing the events of today and pointing to his return. He spoke that we might know and comprehend the meaning of the times. In his words, the church finds guidance, warning against false Christs or secret comings, and hope. Hope for a world in deep trouble with its people and its environment.
If they shall say unto you, Behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. As lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. The Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God. And the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And so shall we ever be with the Lord.
God has given man many other prophecies pertaining to our day. They may be found in the sacred book. For an understanding of the meaning of our times, the Seventh-day Adventist Church recommends for your study the Holy Bible.
His word is love. His word is peace. His word is love.
Calvin. Not John Calvin, but Calvin Productions, which was an industrial and educational film company, who also did Friesen. I wonder if they did it around the same time. It'd be interesting to see what productions they had going on while they were doing Arrow of Prophecy. And Johnny Cash was in it, talking about the evils of tobacco and smoking. Yeah, it was a kind of a doom and gloom thing, but yeah, whenever you get to see a Seventh-day Adventist origin story as told by the Seventh-day Adventist, and have some doom and gloom Christian folk music, big fan. Although I did like the shreds, the guitar shreds in Drugs in Mind. But thanks for joining us today. And we will not be live tomorrow. I'll do another pre-recorded show. But everybody have a great rest of your day. If you liked what you saw, hit the thumbs up button. Or even if you didn't like it, if you're just like, well, I kind of like the gist of what this guy is doing with his films, hit that button, the like button. You can also buy us coffee at ko-fi.com/avgeeks. And we'll be back live Monday, but we do have some more shows this week that we're going to pre-record. So everybody have a great rest of your day, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.